I'm Em,
And I'm Lex.
and we're thrilled to welcome you to the Ready, Set, Coach podcast.
Now, we're not just your hosts. We're also mamas, entrepreneurs, coaches, friends, and co-founders of the Ready, Set, Coach community.
What began as a pandemic side hustle has blossomed into a vibrant online community crafted by coaches for coaches.
So when we're not immersed in our coaching community on Circle, we're busy managing our other businesses, navigating the ups and downs of life, and of course, recording this podcast.
This is where we dive deep into epic conversations about life, business, coaching,
and everything in between.
So are you ready, Lex?
I'm set, Em.
Let's coach.
Hello. Today you are stuck with Lex, or you get the gift of Lex, and I have a special guest with me today. Her name is not Emily Merrill. Her name is Corry Lang, and I'm so excited for you to meet her. Corry, welcome officially to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. So I always like to kind of set the scene a little bit more with where in the world are you? Because with Zoom, I never quite know where people are when I'm talking to them.
I'm actually in Encinitas, which is
Oh.
north of San Diego, California. But I am originally from Germany. That's why I have a German accent. I always say that so that people can stop thinking about it.
Did you just call it out? What part of Germany are you from?
I grew up near Cologne, which is on the western border near France and Belgium. And then I moved to Marburg for college, right in the middle, and then to Munich for work.
Very cool. I've been to Munich and Berlin, obviously two of the main tourist cities, but I am very German, so I have been over. Yeah. And I have family in Encinitas, so I'm also very, very familiar with Encinitas. Now, how do you go from Germany to Encinitas?
Well, I came over with my ex-fiance because he got a scholarship at the Scripps Research Institute. And we were both working in cancer research at the time in a German institute. And then when he came over, I just went with him for 3 months just for a sabbatical. I just wanted to check out the scenery. But I applied for a job at UCSD and I got a job. And so I went back to Germany to just pack more things and fix my things, and came to San Diego for 6 months for a research position at UCSD, in a lab at UCSD. And then I found another job. And then I got a PhD project at a different institute, and that lasts 2 years. So I decided to stay here a little bit longer. And one thing led to another, and somehow I'm still here after 22 years.
After 22 years. Wow. And what a background. And I know a little bit about what you do today, and we're going to dive into that. But it definitely seems like that story is kind of teeing us up to maybe where your journey headed. So let's just continue on that journey. So you're working at the universities, you're getting some research jobs. Where do you go from there? Do you go straight there into what you're doing now, or is there take us through that story?
So I felt that we were doing cancer research mostly and neurobiology. I just felt like we're doing things all wrong in terms of disease prevention. So in cancer research, especially, we look for treatment methods, but not necessarily to cure cancer. They always say that, and it's honorable, but it's really about treatment methods and more factory line medications. And when I realized that, I didn't want to do that. So I left the industry after 12 years. I just left and I started other things. And I was actually jobbing in between. I was working at an organic farm. I was working for a holistic doctor. I was his office manager. And I just tried to get my bearings and find out what I really wanted to do. And then I did life coaching training and yoga teacher training, and I studied nutrition. And then slowly down the road, I formulated my own business, and it was mostly life coaching at that time and some nutrition advice. But then I got sick, and I had, really debilitating symptoms. I had brain fog, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, rashes, hair loss, muscle weakness. At my worst times, I couldn't walk anymore or work. And the chronic fatigue was so bad. At one time, I slept for 30 hours. I just got up twice to go pee really quick, went back to bed, passed out again. And it was absolutely strange. And doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And the chronic pain in my legs, in my muscles, in my nerves, like I couldn't touch my skin, that it felt like it was on fire. That's how bad my nerve pain was in my skin. And doctors always said, there's nothing wrong with you. Come back in 6 months. So at that time, I needed to find a solution, of course, and I started to go back into the medical literature and read research papers. And these symptoms had been known since the 1960s. And even at that time, the scientists were pointing to a virus. And so I went to my doctors and I said, can you test me for this virus? I might have that. And they were like, oh, you were on the internet. Are you a doctor? Haha. And I was like, wow, you don't talk to me like that. I'm your client and I'm paying you. And so I yelled at them, basically. I was so tired and in so much pain and exhausted. And then I finally had hope that I actually could figure out what I really had, right? So they did test me eventually. I did have that virus. And then I was like, wow, okay, there is something there that makes me sick. It's not just coincidence. You know, the doctors were always like, oh, it could be anything. It could be genetics. And I was like, nobody in my family has this. So, and I got it very suddenly. So why should it be genetics? Long story. But so after I knew it was a virus, they still couldn't help me. They had nothing for it. And they kept telling me there is no cure for this. And I was like, of course, there must be a cure. There's a cure for everything. Sorry, but I mean, I couldn't believe that. And so I went back and looked for a cure myself. And I tried pretty much every modality on the planet. I tried a lot of things and herbs and supplements and everything. And everything helped a little bit. But I still had bad flare-ups. I still couldn't get out of bed sometimes and had pain. And then I landed on this method. It's called regenerative detoxification. And what it means is that you detoxify all your organs and body systems from everything that makes you sick. So in my case, it was a pathogen and its cofactors. There's usually heavy metals. That's what viruses feed on. Then there is a sluggish lymphatic system. There might be toxic mucus, toxicity, pesticides, chemicals, those things. And then so we flushed everything out with herbs and nutrition. And then after that, I had no more symptoms. So I haven't had symptoms in 6 years. And I feel better now than in my 20s. I have 0 joint aches or anything like that, more energy than in my 20s. And so I studied that method. I studied with that doctor and I got myself certified. And now I offer that for other people to get to the bottom of what's actually making them sick and then to help them to detoxify from that.
Wow. Hey everyone, Lex here.
And Em.
And if you haven't heard, we did something pretty darn cool.
We sure did. We launched a completely free community built specifically for coaches.
Say it again for the people in the back.
We launched a free community for coaches. Tell them quickly who it's for and what we're doing inside, Lex.
Sure thing. So it's for anyone from the coaching curious to side hustlers to coaches ready to scale. And through the virtual platform that we've built, we've created a safe and fun space to learn, launch, grow, connect, ideate, collaborate, vent, and evolve together.
Nailed it, Lex. Now, while it's free, you must apply in order to gain a free membership. You know, so we can make sure everyone inside is awesome, like us.
Apply today at readysetcoachcommunity.com. Okay, let's break this. Let's go here. In a very simple way. I meet you at a cocktail party and I go, "Hi, I'm Lexie. I have a PR agency and a coaching community. What do you do?" How do you explain that level of a story in a simple what you are as a coach? Like, what's your one-liner or your elevator pitch of sorts?
I would say I help women, mainly women with chronic health issues who haven't been helped by doctors, get to the bottom of what's actually making them sick. And then I help them to detoxify from that so that their tissues and organs can regenerate and heal.
And how long, I mean, this I'm sure is not a straight answer for everyone, but I'm in curiosity/selfish mode as I get to be on my own podcast. How long does the detoxification process take, and does it look the same for everyone? Is it, person A and person B you're gonna give them the same regimen and maybe it takes a little bit different time based on who they are? Talk me through kind of some high level expectations at the start of your journey with them.
So every person is different, of course, right? And every person might have different symptoms. So the length, usually I work with them for 3 or 6 months. Okay. Depending on the severity of their symptoms. And that gives us a good time frame to really flush out the organs and body systems and tissues and cells from the things that make them sick. So I believe that with the herbal products that we're taking herbal medicine, this really accelerates the process. Without the herbs, it could take them longer to detoxify. If they did it just with nutrition, it can take up to 2 years.
Oh, wow.
For me, it took me 9 months, the whole process, but I was really bouncing around in the beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no guidance, no accountability. I tried everything, it's like, how's that saying with the spaghetti? Throwing spaghetti at the wall?
Yeah, and see what sticks.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like that. I was trying all these things, spent a ton of money and tried so many different things. But I would say realistically, if someone has symptoms like I did, like those typical autoimmune lupus fibromyalgia symptoms, brain fog, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, realistically, it takes them 3 months and then sometimes maybe a little longer.
Okay.
Clients who had lupus for 40 years and they got re-diagnosed with lupus for 40 years. And within a couple of weeks, they started to feel so much better. And then after 3 months, they were fine. They hardly had any symptoms. Everybody acknowledged that, like their friends, their family said, you look totally different. You look healthy again. So you can do a lot in 3 months or in 6 months.
Wow. Okay. And let's either debunk or prove a stereotype that's coming to my mind, because when you start to talk about detoxing and I'm starting to think, okay, great. Do I not get to enjoy anything anymore? Is it just like I'm eating kale and drinking water, or is it that strict, or is there some level of balance that someone can still have in life? I am the worst person. I don't even want to tell you how many cups of coffee I've had today. So I might take like 2 years, but yeah, is it really that strict, or is there kind of talk me through that?
That's a really great question. I'm so happy you're asking that because I do get that concern quite a bit. So when we first start, we establish what they're actually eating. And I'm not judgy at all. Like, I mean, I like chocolate too or ice cream. It's like I have zero willpower, by the way. I think willpower is overrated. It's from the hustle culture, mindset. I think what really helps is habits. So what we do is establish a baseline and then we slowly change habits. And especially when you start taking the herbs are really your friends. They're plant medicine and they go into your body where they're needed. And if they're not needed, they leave. But while they're in your body, they attack all the bad things and support the good things. And you will notice that your palate changes, that your cravings stop, that you start thinking healthier thoughts. Everything starts to balance out to a healthier way of being and on all levels. And the herbs are very supportive with that. That's why I always stress the herbs. You could do this just with nutrition, but it would take longer and it would be harder. I think the plant medicine is really, really important. And so, no, you don't have to just eat kale and water. That would be horrible. I wouldn't do that.
I mean, yeah, that's where I like what you were saying a little bit about willpower. There is a lot to that. And I think it's nice to hear that you can have some amount of normalcy in the process. I can imagine in a coaching lane like yours or a category, there are probably the selling process in itself, I would imagine is quite heavy, quite emotional. There's a lot involved. I can imagine a lot of questions come up throughout the process. Um, but maybe I'm wrong. Do you feel that way? Because I think of when you're selling a business service, right? It's pretty clear if you're going to speak to the ROI. When you talk about health, and when I've worked with health adjacent coaches, I just feel like it's this whole other category. Okay, so something that Emily and I talk on this show about a lot is we talk a lot about sales and marketing. And when you have a business product or you're a business coach or marketing coach, that process feels pretty clear. You get to speak to, you hire me, business makes more money. When you go into a category like yours, and we'll just call it health, right? There's a lot of that's general. I think a lot more comes up, and the sales process can be a little bit more complicated. So I was just curious for you. The question is, if you could share your experience, you're not new at this, about selling a product or a service like this. Do you find it to be an emotional process? Am I completely wrong here? Is it quick because people are so desperate? What is your general, if someone listening is listening to this, either they are currently a health coach or thinking about it, what is that sales process like, or what has it been like for you?
Okay. So I kind of not use the word sales at all. I actually,
Oh,
when I get on a consult with people, then I try to literally just be of service because I'm there to help them figure out their next steps. And I always say that in my consults too. I always say, like, the intention of this consult is to help you figure out your next steps, whether you want to work with me or not. It's both good. If you don't want to work with me, I'll tell you about my programs. But if you don't want to work with me, I can direct you to someone else, or I can give you some free literature or whatever. So the intention really is to help them figure out what they want to do. And a lot of times they need that to feel safe, right? I mean, as soon as they start feel safe and trust you, they're much more open to a real conversation and really be authentic and tell me what's actually behind their illness and why they want to heal, what their motivation is. And a lot of times it's not just getting better or losing weight or any of that. It's a lot of times it's a mental, emotional reason, to be there for the grandkids, or to just have more quality time with their family. That's a huge one. Or also, sometimes, a lot of times, people with chronic illnesses, they have a lot of shame and guilt because the family or the friends don't understand why they're sick, and the doctors don't understand why they're sick. And there is shame and guilt in that arena. Like, people think they did something bad and that's why they're being punished or something like that. And so we work on the emotional levels as well.
oh
And we
wow.
address that in the consult, in the sales conversation, right? We address that and try to get to the bottom of what's really moving them or what they need. And then the selling part is actually pretty easy.
I- the irony of you not liking the word sales, I want to say to everyone, is that she just gave you a sales masterclass, because I truly think the secret to sales is to remove that barrier of that word and come from a place of service and listening. And you've nailed that, which is so I wish everyone in the world listening to this podcast, rewind, tap back. That's truly it. When you are a coach, when you have a coaching related offering, if you can truly tap into what makes you passionate in that place of service, then it doesn't become just a sales call, it becomes a consult. So I want to go a little bit more into something you just brought up, and that is the emotional side of it all, because I
Mhm.
think this becomes a little bit more transferable no matter who's listening. So I think some people listening could be a potential customer, some people just might be a colleague or in the industry. And so when you work through the emotional component with your clients, do you have any favorite tools or frameworks or tidbits you can share in how to, I know not all of it, I'm not asking you to give away the whole meat and potatoes, but how to
Mhm.
navigate the emotional conversations or side of the coaching journey?
I always try to look for the impact that something has on their life, like their illness in this case. How does it impact their lives? And it's usually always about family time, their kids. They're worried about their kids, like, what happens if I get sicker or if something really bad happens, like if I get cancer from this or something, what are my kids going to do? And it always comes to the loved ones. And I just try to point that out to them. And sometimes they don't know or they never thought about it. And it's important because that actually already initiates the healing process. So as soon as you start thinking about your why, you get in action. If you think about you want to be there for your kids, you start reading and researching and doing things and being in action more. So it's really good to unlock that door. But so I do it through the impact. I always ask them, like, what is the impact of all this on your life and on your family? And then a lot of times there's other reasons too, like money. Of course, they can't work as much. If they're sick, they have to call in sick a lot. That's sometimes huge for them. Financial burdens, worries and stress, anxiety, all these things. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think in connecting to your why is one of the most important things anyone can do as a human, let alone a coach, or helping your client understand that, because it's the root of their motivation. It's the root of what gets them to show up every day. It's the root of what keeps them accountable.
Mhm.
Um, and I can imagine too, when creating habits, the accountability part of what you do is really important. So, how have you structured the container of working with you? How a coach offers a program or offers a service offering is honestly a pretty hot topic. We have a lot of newcomers come to us and be like, oh, I'm really great at X topic, but do I deliver it in 12 weeks? Do I do it in 6? Is it they get 24 access to me? Do I do it via email? And I think it's always just interesting to learn what's working with other coaches. So,
Mhm.
what is your structure like when someone works with you? What are the components involved?
So I have a couple of offers, but I really focus on my main flagship offer, which is the 3-month coaching program, the 3-month detoxification program. So I think it's best for new coaches to focus on one product and really make that go really well, and then maybe expand into other products. But you can't scatterbrain all over the place. You have to focus on one thing. I think that works for me.
Amen. Just had to underscore that. Yes, yes. Okay, continue. So
So
that one, yeah, what's involved in that 3-month container? What's that structure?
so for me, for our specific case, the detoxification program, we do, first of all, we get to the bottom of what makes people sick. So we use scientific methods, we use blood work. Sometimes I send them back to the doctor, get more blood work done, get specific tests done. We do a full, complete health assessment, and then I do an iris reading. I read the iris of their eye, which gives me a lot of insight into their organ health, the state of acidity or toxicity, those things. And then I write them an herbal protocol. And then we get on the road of every week they get a new herbal protocol. Every week we talk. Every week I give them a food journal. So they write down what they eat. They write down their symptoms. If symptoms change, go away, or if there's side effect, there's never side effects from the herbs, by the way. But sometimes they take the herbs too quickly and then they start detoxing too fast. So I keep a really good eye on that they don't start too fast, Everything has to be a little bit measured, especially in the beginning. So we talk a lot in the beginning. And then once they're on autopilot with the herbs and their nutrition, they get a nutrition plan, they get recipes, they get all kinds of documents where they can read up on their symptoms and some research and those things. I send them a lot of stuff in the beginning. And then they just work through it. They have little assignments during the week. And we talk every week. And then once they're on autopilot with the herbs and all that, nutrition, then we start with the emotional part. So we do emotional health coaching. We go into past trauma, into sometimes they have medical PTSD because they've been through so much with the doctors.
Yeah.
And we just unleash a few things. So my training is actually, I did 1,500 hours of life coaching training, and we did a lot of emotional health coaching in that as well. And I worked for my coaching school for 3 years. I led webinars and seminars for them. And so there's a lot of training that goes into all this. So I can't really talk about all the things we do, but
Of course. Yeah.
but we go into their childhood sometimes, into whatever is disempowering to them, whatever may be the reason they got sick in the first place, because there's always stress involved, whatever stressed them at that time. And we try to just complete that in an empowering way and then create something new in its place that would empower them more, basically.
Now, you mentioned there's no way you can go into everything. So where can people go to learn more about you? Because I know we're barely scratching the surface here. And so if they want to learn more about you, about your programs, how to work with you, what's the best place to send them?
So I think the best place would be my website, because there's a lot of stuff on my website and free stuff too, and an ebook and a guide, and you can sign up for my mailing list. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about these things. I think it's Corry Lang Detox is my YouTube channel, Corry Lang Detox. And I also have a webinar every month. I talk about my healing journey, how I healed myself, and what people can do to start healing themselves as well. And I actually have one every month. So the information is also on the website.
Okay, amazing. And you guys will put those in the show notes. The last thing I want to do today, this is we always put you guys on the spot. But to be fair, when Emily and I do this, we put each other on the spot. So that's the fun part about this show. Considering who's listening right now, which it's considering it's the Ready Set Coach podcast, likely going to be some form of a coach, whether they're interested or they're in the game. What is a piece of homework as a coach yourself that you would like to give to everyone listening today? It can be related to what you do professionally or whatever you want, whatever comes to mind.
I think it would be a great practice to practice the no sales conversation. So just going out and talking to anybody, to friends, family, coworkers, anyone, or clients ideally, and just trying to get what's on their mind and heart and just being of service to them. That has been so huge for me in my development. Like every time I'm of service, A, I'm just so much happier. And B, I can see results in what I want to achieve. It's just you really connect with people authentically, and they really get you, and it's just a great exchange of energy at that point, you know? So I think it's a great practice. Just try to talk to someone and find out what's important to them and try to support them in some way.
Ask more questions than speaking. I think that's another key part of it all when you're coming from a place of service. So I think that's wonderful homework. And I want to thank you for your time today. You guys, if you are listening, please reach out to Corry. Tell her something you learned today. Tell her you heard her on the show. And if you are not already in the Ready Set Coach community, what are you doing? Sign up. It's free. Come inside, join us. And until next time on the Ready Set Coach podcast.
If you're enjoying the Ready Set Coach podcast, please leave a review wherever you are listening. For more information about Ready Set Coach, visit readysetcoachprogram.com.